Hello people, I am MPage, and welcome to my very first international video. This video is dubbed in multiple languages through the use of YouTube's auto-dubbing AI. If you are watching this in a not-English language, I would appreciate your feedback on the quality of the translation. And I also hope you enjoy this video. Guitar Hero is a very popular rhythm game, and Activision at one point has teased the idea of rebooting the franchise. They took to Instagram to float their concept for a revival. Unfortunately, people were not having it. One, because the Guitar Hero mobile revival just couldn't be considered feasible at the time. And number two, they floated this concept using a series of AI-generated images, which didn't sit well for anybody. But personally, I don't think one disastrous pitch is enough to kill a dormant IP. I do believe there could still be a revival. So on the small chance they do make it, we need to make sure to make it right. So this is my top 5 Guitar Hero Revival must-haves. When the first Guitar Hero game was in development, Harmonix cut costs by hiring the production company Wave Group Sound to produce covers of popular rock songs. This strategy originated with their Karaoke Revolution series and was a great way to save money on music licensing and ensure high-quality track stems. While opinions are mixed on how good the cover sounded compared to the original songs, they definitely contributed to the vibe of the game in a positive way, since the whole story of the game revolved around a fresh, new rock band starting from the bottom and rising up to superstardom. It makes sense for the songs to have an amateur or perhaps independent kind of vibe in their sound. It also helped that their bonus songs section contained a selection of original songs from independent artists. As the series progressed, there was a gradual shift to using more licensed master tracks, and what little covers remained were divided amongst Wave Group Sound, Line 6, who manufactures music and sound equipment, and this guy, Steve Oimetz, who also found music production work on other video games. Eventually, starting with Guitar Hero Metallica, there would be no more cover songs for the Guitar Hero series. Side note, there were also no cover songs on disc for Guitar Hero World Tour, but some cover songs were released as DLC, such as Black Betty. Personally, I believe once the covers were gone, the vibe also left, because from that moment onwards, it felt like we were just watching big stars get even bigger off of other people's music, as well as the odd celebrity cameo here and there. That's where I think the reboot can make a comeback. Give us a story about a band who has a humble start to their career and gradually works their way up to rock and roll superstardom. Let us rock out to cover songs to give us the vibe of actually jamming with our friends. And heck, start using indie artists again, like the ones on Spotify that don't have any monthly listeners. I'm sure they would appreciate it. The only caveat is that they can't use Wave Group Sound anymore because they're a little busy doing the sound design work for Meta Platforms, the parent company of Facebook. With fan games like Clone Hero and Yarg, as well as popular mods like Guitar Hero World Tour Definitive Edition, we have seen amazing levels of creativity from the Guitar Hero and Rock Band communities. There's custom songs, of course, but there's also custom backgrounds, custom character models, custom highways, color profiles, and so much more. I think a nice way for this revival to acknowledge and respect these communities would be to give them a space to show their creativity in an official capacity. We've already seen a decent attempt at this from Guitar Hero World Tour onwards, when they allowed gamers to create custom songs with an interface similar to Apple's GarageBand. Personally, I think Activision can take lessons from Minecraft Bedrock Edition in regards to setting up a marketplace where anyone in the community can buy and sell assets, as well as pushing some free stuff for the fun of it. If we look at the downloadable content offered in the classic Guitar Hero and Rock Band games and compare it to the streaming selection provided by Guitar Hero Live and Fortnite Festival, the pros and cons of each approach are quite clear. With downloaded songs, you can play them with or without internet. You can play them in practice mode, more on that later, and there are no gameplay errors unless the file is busted, in which case you can just re-download it. The cons of this approach were that very few, if any, songs were offered for free, And to play any of these songs in online multiplayer, every single player in your game had to have whatever song you wanted to play. Not to mention if a song was ever removed from the store, or the whole store suddenly disappeared, and you didn't happen to buy that particular song beforehand, you missed out. Now, Guitar Hero Live and Fortnite Festival are similar in that they offered streaming services to push their extra songs, but they went about it in different ways. In Guitar Hero Live, there were 2 stations in which you could play along to music videos that aired on their schedule for free, but you could also pay for plays, which allowed you to stream any song and video you wanted from their on-demand catalog. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to go into premium shows and party pass stuff. The cons to this approach are clear as day. If a song was removed, there was nothing you could do. The game had no practice mode, meaning if you messed up and wanted a full combo, you had to start over. And every time you wanted to start over, it would cost you an additional play, assuming you were playing on demand. You could only play online, and if your connection was bad, the video could buffer, or worse, the whole song could buffer. And if you were playing on one of the free stations, you couldn't even pause the game. On top of all of that is the fact that the official servers for GHTV, the music video side of Guitar Hero Live, have been dead for years. So, if you pick up Guitar Hero Live today, you're essentially playing half a game, unless you decide to modify your software or console to hop aboard one of the fan revival servers. Then there's Fortnite Festival, which has a randomly created selection of songs to play for free that rotates every day. And if you want to play a song, no matter what day it is, you have to buy it. But once you do buy a song, you can play that song with other people online, regardless if they bought it or not. What's the catch? Well, obviously you can't play offline, and there's still no practice mode. The song could buffer if your connection sucks. And if you thought losing your favorite song from the store gave you fear of missing out, Fortnite Festival makes things worse because not only are the songs you're allowed to play for free rotating every day, but they also rotate the songs that you're allowed to purchase. That is dumb. Based on fan feedback to both of these sides of content monetization, I can assume the best way to provide extra songs to the revival would be somewhere in the middle. Perhaps offer songs for players to stream for free so that they can try before they buy, and then when they purchase a song, give them a download. That's just my suggestion, of course. I'm sure there are many possibilities out there when it comes to this style of compromise. Now, it goes without saying that the reason Guitar Hero and Rock Band kinda died out at one point was due to oversaturation of the market. And a big reason for this oversaturation of the market was that there were a bunch of different companies making a bunch of different instrument controllers that were bundled with a bunch of different games. And some of those games needed those controllers as a requirement. And also, you have to factor in that a bunch of these controllers were made multiple times to go for the different consoles and were not cross-compatible. Bundling the instruments with the games made them more expensive to produce, more expensive to buy, and the controllers could take up a lot of space in your living place. But did you know there was a time that you could play Guitar Hero without any special controller at all? That's right, all you had to do was boot up the game with your standard controller, load up a song, and press buttons. It took a while to master, but you could do it. Also, I'm sorry I couldn't find any proper footage of playing with a standard controller. The best high quality footage I could get was this bootleg Thailand arcade, but the arcade buttons are mapped to standard PS2 buttons, so I think it still counts. But starting with Guitar Hero World Tour and throughout the entirety of the Rock Band series, certain instrument gameplay styles were locked to specific types of controllers. If you wanted to play drums, you needed a drum kit. If you wanted to play guitar or bass, you needed a guitar controller. If you wanted to sing, you'd have to plug in your standard controller as well as a USB microphone. There was no room for compromise. And what especially hurt is years later, the community did some digging and found out this was entirely arbitrary, at least on the Guitar Hero side, because if you hack your game to open up debug menus in Guitar Hero World Tour and beyond, one common setting you'll find is that there's an option to allow the standard controller to play all the instruments. Guess some companies will do whatever it takes to sell you more plastic. Anyway, with the exception of modern fan games like Clone Hero and Yard, the only official game we have in this style that lets you use any controller you want and remap inputs is Fortnite Festival. Sure, there are some companies that capitalize on Fortnite Festival by making custom controllers, and some of them are still even guitar-shaped, like this Riffmaster from PDP. But the fact of the matter is that you can still play with your standard controller, or even a mouse and keyboard, and you can remap it. That's something I believe the Revival should keep in mind if they don't want to risk oversaturating the market with expensive controllers again. Make it so the fun controller is something gamers would want to have rather than being a requirement to play. There is one essential portion of these games that cannot be ignored. The first Guitar Hero game didn't have it, but all the other ones did, up until Guitar Hero Live, and look how well that turned out. Rock Band clearly paid attention because they had it from the very beginning until the very end. And the only downside was that the PS2 versions did not implement it very well. The creators, Harmonix, actually didn't stop including it until they were bought out by Epic, and as such it was nowhere to be found in Fortnite Festival. If you pay attention to my number 3 pick earlier in this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Of course, my number 1 pick is something necessary for casual and professional play. It's practice mode. If you're having trouble nailing a particular section of a song, just go into practice mode, fire up that section, and keep playing it until you improve. You can even slow it down to give yourself time to adjust to more advanced finger techniques. This entire list may be my personal opinion, but I would dare to wager that the Guitar Hero community would agree with me when I say that having a practice mode in the Revival is not optional. Because the only thing more frustrating than messing up on a particular section is to have to restart the entire song just to get another chance at it. I hope you enjoyed this top 5 list, and I would like to thank you all for watching. If you're interested in my other videos, I only speak English in them, unfortunately, but if you do understand the language, I would encourage you to give them a try. And let me know what other videos you would like me to make in the comments, because I do lots of interesting stuff, mostly gaming, but I like to try anything at least once. A big thanks to my paid YouTube channel members, RaptorMon132, Septiles720, and Wavefinder39. I'll check you guys later. Peace.